So E.Woodford begins with my great-great-grandfather, Edwin Woodford. He was a Londoner, born and bred, was trained as a wheelwright originally. I think it was 1908 the shop began, but it's thinking back to that time and what it would have been like. His first shop was on Cold Harbour Lane in London, and I think that's when, it's difficult to know because there's no written text of whenever this happened, but his son got involved and started working for him and opened a second shop in Love Walk just down the road. After the First World War, my grandfather was born, and he started to work for my great-grandfather, and he was kind of primed to take over, and he was meant to have a shop, was meant to do what I'm doing now, but couldn't. He went to war, and he ended up on the beach in Dunkirk. He was on what he called a 3-tonner, and him and his mate decided to jump off, and the 3-tonner was destroyed. It's so difficult to put your head in that sort of space, but he was, how do I get off this beach? And at the time, the way you got off the beach was given a number on a tag that was on your collar. He had to search through friends' and comrades' bodies to find a lower number to get off the beach as quickly as possible, because it's about survival. I think of that when times are tough. Creating what I'm doing now, recreating that brand, E.Woodford, is difficult and it's hard work, but it's nothing compared to a bloke on a beach, desperate to survive. And without him doing that, I wouldn't have been in this position now. I remember his big factories and wandering around, and I distinctly remember him saying that there's a mouse in that hole down there on this massive floor, and I used to run around and look down these little holes in these rotten old floorboards and love that kind of stuff. And the smells and the sounds of machines drumming. So it's all I know. When I took over, I wanted a bit more control. The first job was to learn design and pattern cutting, and I was only 16. I went to colleges in Northampton. I learned most from people that are in the trade and have been in the trade their whole lives. The whole of Northamptonshire was shoes. When I started, it used to be 95% of the town was making shoes, and when I started, it was probably 5%. Now it's probably less than 1%. But because we've been talking about my family and my dad, the shoe factory. Just watching that video there where it's the bigger factory and how they used to be. Back then it was like there were still people that had been in the trade for so long that I could go to their house and learn all the little tricks of the trade, and I could still visit factories where I could pick up really unusual techniques that I just, at the time, just enjoyed doing it. Didn't know I would recreate it now. It just kind of, it's lovely to bring all that stuff back, but it's lovely to bring it back from a genuine position of just seeing it firsthand. 4 years ago, I said, I'm going to make the world's, what I consider the best shoe to be made, out of the best materials I can make. There's been loads of research we've done to find the best materials we can for E.Woodford, and it comes down to a few different core materials. So for cordovan, I want the best, I go to Horween. For the suede, if I want the best, I go to Leeds in the UK for Steads, and I buy their best suede. Always the very best that each has to offer. If I want the best calf, I'm using Baker's oak bark tan calf. It's 2 or 3 times the price of normal calf, but I feel that E.Woodford deserves, just for my own peace of mind, something that is really unique. They can only make a certain amount of skins a week. They're really difficult to work with. In fact, if any of the other factories get any of these materials, it's just too technical for them to use, too difficult, it's too scarred, you throw too much away, it's just too costly. Those are the materials I want to use, because those are the things that I want to shine a light on. The final shoe will be made out of the best part of the skin, and that skin is really unusual, and that's kind of the most important thing I want to get across. You need a wooden last to start with, and that's been designed at Springline, which is just 10 minutes up the road in Northampton, and they've been going for 40 years. They've helped me to create a boot and a loafer and a shoe last, and the right way they should look, that's classic, modernised for modern times. For the bottom stock and for some of the upper leathers we use Baker's, and that's used because it's oak bark tan calf. It takes a year and a half in a pit, and it's the last tannery left doing oak bark tan calf leather in the UK. It's really expensive, but it's the right thing to use for each part of the shoe. So the toe puff uses the shoulder of the animal, and the counter uses the shoulder, and the sole uses the belly. Everything is kind of, if it's been doing it the same way for 500 years, I kind of feel like it's the right way to go. And it's the same with the upper materials. So the upper materials, if I want to use a cordovan, the best cordovan I can possibly find is Horween in Chicago. And I use it because when it's wet slightly and it's manipulated by a hand laster, it's just a beautiful material. It's really hard to work with. It varies a lot in thickness, it varies a lot in size, it's really expensive, but it's just the right thing to use. It's about combining all those materials, not because I think that looks cool, it's because they're the right materials to use. When you put that on your foot, it just is a feeling like nothing else, and that's the difference between what we do and what is a shoe off a shelf. So with E.Woodford, I want there to be a future for it, and I want my kids one day to see what's being created, but not for selfish reason, to feel part of something. And meaning's a really difficult thing to find in life, and I feel I found it.